why it's important to talk about general equality and about violence in Armenia?
Well, thank you for asking the question. Today we launched the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. This is a very important topic. In the world, 1 out of 3 women experience gender-based violence, and in 2022, 89,000 women have been killed on purpose. So this is a problem that we face in every single country. It's not specific to Armenia. In Armenia, there's been significant progress. The country has passed a law in the past few weeks on domestic violence. This is really important. There's been a lot of struggle to pass this law, but it means that it is recognized as a problem that needs to be addressed. So now that the law is passed, we need to make sure that the law is implemented, which means we need to provide the services for the victims of violence, which are mostly women and girls. Sometimes boys or children are also victims of violence, but it's mostly women. And we need to make sure that they can also they have places to go when they are victim of violence, and that includes going to the police, having the right officers, female officers as much as possible, so that they can tell about their case, and then having victim shelters or shelters for victims where they can start another life. This is really important. So the services provided to the women who have experienced violence. But equally important is to make sure that we do a lot of prevention work. So what do we have to do with those who do the violence, with mostly men within the family? And this is really, really important. So we have to raise awareness among the citizens, but we have also to do a lot of work with boys, with adolescents, and with the men themselves, so that they understand that beating a woman is not cultural, it's criminal. And we really need to work on these family behaviors inside the family, these stereotypes that it is okay to beat a woman. It's not okay to beat your wife, to beat a woman. It's not okay to beat your daughters. And so it's a long-term work. Now we have the law that gives us a good framework to apply the different possibilities, so that we build a society where violence is not the first option. There is no option for violence.
What do you think about that fact that COP29 was held in Azerbaijan, a country that carried out ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh?
Okay, COP29 is about climate change. So I understand your question, but if you have followed what is happening in COP29, this year it was about securing financing for for the countries in need, the undeveloped countries, securing financing so that we can do more action on climate change. And I think when we work on climate, we need to focus on climate. I understand the question that you're asking vis-à-vis what Azerbaijan, vis-à-vis the political situation with Azerbaijan. But for us, the COP is about the climate. And by the way, there is a lot of work to do in Armenia on fighting climate change. There is a lot of work to do on fighting pollution. There is a lot of work to do on fighting the loss of biodiversity. And I think this is where, when you talk about climate, you have to focus on what you can do inside this country. As the head of the UN, I work in Armenia, so I deal with matters that relate to Armenia. And finally, we have some very good news for Armenia. Armenia has been selected to host COP17 on biodiversity. This is a fantastic opportunity for this country to demonstrate what they do on the environment, on the biodiversity, because this country has a very rich biodiversity, to demonstrate how they can run an international conference of this size and importance, and to demonstrate that Armenia can also lead on formulating and implementing global policies that involved all UN member states. So I think this is where we should focus when we talk about climate and environment.
Azerbaijan is also using oil, and I think it's also important.
So the UN focus on transition. Okay, we have to transition out of fossil fuel. This will take time. There are different models for that. Some countries will choose to continue to use their resource to fund an energy transition. This is what Azerbaijan is doing. And again, I work in Armenia. I'm happy to answer question about Armenia. I'm not here to answer question about Azerbaijan. But we, as the UN, we encourage country to transition out of fuel as quickly as possible. This will be our focus, to move into renewable energy. And your country is doing quite well, again, on that. And I think you should focus on this, is showcase what Armenia is doing. I think when it comes to locally produced energy, now Armenia has about 20%, if I'm not mistaken, of renewable energy. So what do we do to make this change faster in Armenia?
What steps are being taken by UN office in Armenia towards the return of Armenian prisoners of war held in Azerbaijan, illegally held in Azerbaijan?
Yeah, so this is a topic that is regularly discussed whenever the UN Secretary General has an opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister of Armenia or with the Foreign Minister, whenever the head of the Human Rights Office in Geneva has the opportunity to meet with Armenian officials. This is regularly discussed. The negotiation for the return of prisoners is the responsibility of the state of Armenia, the government of Armenia. So we certainly advocate for the release of prisoners and the return of prisoners. The ultimate responsibility is with the government of Armenia.